how did you found an ink around Black love? And did that come first or did the show idea come first?
So honestly, as far as the idea, it was all at the same time. We knew, so I came up with it before I met Tommy, and I knew I wanted to create a place where Black love stories live. But I also knew that marriage and romantic love and partnership wasn't the end all be all, right? I knew that I wanted to see myself represented and reflected back to me in all spaces, like parenthood, sisterhood, friendship, self-love. I knew that even before I really had language for it, because this was a long time ago. But as far as creating things, we created the docuseries, launched in 2017, even though we started shooting in 2014. And then in 2018, we launched the rest, Black Love Inc., which includes blacklove.com and several digital series, live events. And then last year, we created the podcast network and the streaming platform.
Okay. Now, Tommy would be Tonya Oliver, who would be your paramour, correct? That's your person. So yes. Codie Elaine Oliver, how did you and Tonya Oliver become a pair?
So we met at the Toronto Film Festival in 2013. He paid me no attention the day that we met. I mean, very little attention. And by the end of the night, you know, these film festivals, it's like parties all day. By the end of the night, we met for the third time and we actually talked for hours. The night to night, we talked for hours until we both left the festival. And then we hung out a week later in LA. And we were together ever since. We got engaged after 6 months and married after a year and a half.
What was the thing? What was the thing that you knew? I have a lot of male friends. I enjoy being that sounding board and also understanding how their minds work. Yeah. And one of my friends said, a man always knows, they will know like almost immediately if that woman is going to be their wife. So every other woman is just a placeholder till they get there. So if you're in a relationship with somebody for 10 years and they ain't marrying you, it's because you ain't the one. They know you're not the one, but they're not trying to, I don't know.
I can't agree with that fully because, and I'll say why, and then I'll answer your question. I'll say why. It's because he may not be ready. He might know that's the one, but he knows I'm gonna mess that up if I try to do it right now. So I will say that I get your friend's point, but there's so many. That's the thing about when I met Tommy. Like I said, he paid me no attention. People ignore that we're coming to the table as like whole humans. He had a girlfriend when we met. Well, technically, they broke up the day before. But my point is like, that was the baggage that he had. He's not looking for somebody else. So him not paying me any attention while on that day, I was like, oh, how could you? But eventually it became, oh, okay, there was all this going on. So, but to your point, Tommy would agree. He knew right away. Not the first day, but like a couple of days later, he knew right away that I was it for him. For me, it wasn't as quick, but obviously it was pretty quick. What I knew is that I knew I was ready. And I knew I wanted to find someone who wanted what I wanted. I had dated enough people, to your point, that were kind of like, oh, I'm not sure, not now. And so we had those conversations very early. So we knew we wanted the same things. We knew we both wanted a family. And so after that, to me, it was just like, okay, do we like each other? Like the boxes are checked. He went to Carnegie Mellon, and didn't even realize how impressive that was until later. But, he was a smart guy and a talented filmmaker, and he was cute, and he wanted a wife and a family. Like all those boxes are checked. So do we like each other? Do we get along? Is he thoughtful and emotionally mature? Those things mattered to me. So
866-801-8255.
So I love the fact that you wanted Black love to be more than just marriage. And I don't know if you're married. It sounded like maybe you're not married, but I think that
she is married. We just talked about Tommy.
She said they were together, but you said you didn't agree about, if someone's with you for a long time and you're not married.
I wasn't just talking about him. I've interviewed enough couples to know.
I think that as a general is true, but I think that the concept and construct of marriage is something that was a property issue, and that's what it's still about. And it really doesn't serve women. I feel like women right now, if you don't want to be in a traditional relationship, Marry your best friend so that if you have some wealth, it can pass down a matrilineal line. We can keep wealth with women so women aren't put in this position where they have to go into economic slavery to a man just to make sure that they have a roof over their head and their children are fed. Like, I'm like, what's the constructive way to keep wealth with women so we have the power? I mean, I think that's why the laws have us making less money, because men know that if we had as much money as them, we would just go milk the cow and leave the cow behind.
Yeah. Well, can I just say, I don't disagree with you. Well, there's one point of contention for me. You said marriage doesn't serve women. I would say it doesn't serve everyone, right? People get married for different reasons. And I've thought about this a lot lately.
And I'm thinking about legally. I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, I understand. Hold on, get my AirPod together. I agree. I think that, like, if there's one thing I've observed over like 250 interviews with couples and like being married myself for 7 years, and my parents being divorced, like, and the things that taught me and the reason that I did all this in the first place, it's that people get married for a lot of reasons. And then people have these expectations of marriage, and many of us are chasing, oh, my grandparents were married for 70 years. And to your point, there were different reasons for that. We've interviewed couples that, people love to see the 60, 70 year marriage, but then we talk to them, I shouldn't say, and then we talk to them and it's like, well, I got married because he was going to the military and my mom said it was a good idea. And so that's what happened. Like, and it's very straightforward. And it was like, women couldn't have bank accounts, and there were so many things that we couldn't do. So now we're chasing these marriages, that our grandparents had when they were sweeping all these various things under the rug. And that's not everybody. But the point is, I completely agree. Marriage doesn't serve everyone. And we have to find someone who's aligned with our values and our expectations of what marriage should be. We have to know and understand for ourselves what those expectations are. And it's a journey. And that's why there's so much judgment. We were talking about judgment. I was talking about judgment a little bit earlier. There's so many people who will look at a couple and what they've been through and judge it. I would never put up with that, or I would never stay at home, or my husband wouldn't, whatever. It's more important than ever to just do what works for you. Stop worrying about everybody else.
Give her some snaps and some Bell Smiths, some good, give all of that. Yes. Her name is, all of the things. Codie Elaine Oliver. I wish people would mind their damn business. Yeah. And let me publicly apologize to a couple that last week I'm gonna do this. So at my conference we had a spades party, and the couple that won, they're not married, so they called up last week, Brian and Cassandra, I think it is. Please forgive me if I forget. And I was like, so when y'all get married? And someone's like, you sound like somebody's grandmama asking, and I was like, why did I do that? It was like so knee jerk. Like, I don't care whether they're married or not. They wear matching outfits. They were dope as hell. They were a lot of fun. They were mad cool. And who cares whether they're married or not? What the hell? And I bothered them there too. I was like, why ain't you marrying her? I was like, damn, Karen, why you acting like your mother right now? What the hell just happened? Did my mother just possess me? So I apologize to them publicly, because you're absolutely right, Codie Elaine Oliver. People should do whatever makes them happy.
Yeah. And our hope was to give people tools, right? If you want a long-lasting relationship, and I do mean relationship, right? We focused on marriage, but there's a lot of reasons for that. But if you want a long-lasting relationship, we wanted to give the tools to like get through it all, right? So we have couples who've been through infidelity. We have couples who've been through bankruptcy. We've had couples who this issue may seem smaller, but like dealt with like power. Well, I want to work and I want to take care of the kids, and maybe we're not on the same page. Like, all of these are real and valid. And if you want to stay together, then here's a couple of examples of people who've stayed together. And that's why, not just the people who stayed together, people who stayed together and dealt with whatever their challenges were maturely. And in a healthy way. And even if they failed at that a couple times, the goal was to find their way back to each other.
We're talking with Codie Elaine Oliver. She's co-founder of Black Love Inc. You guys should probably watch Black Love, the docuseries on OWN. I think, what season is it in? 5?
We are going into 6, and the entire catalog, all 5 seasons, are available on the Black Love Plus app for free, as well as Hulu and Discovery Plus.
I love it. All right. So we've watched everybody. I've watched just about everybody, even Tank been on there, Candy and Todd, Chance and Tabitha Brown. Hey, sweeties. Who's on the season 6? That
it is too early for me to say.
What?
The show will come out in the summertime. I mean, maybe you can just have me back and I'll give you all the tea.
What's her name? Niecy Nash and her partner.
So we actually interviewed Niecy before her divorce. And we would love to have Niecy and Jessica back. Actually, well, Niecy back with Jessica. We've talked about it and just like love them and love Niecy for honoring herself. I can't speak to what didn't work in that marriage. I just know that, divorce happens. And that this woman seems to be beyond happy and fulfilled. And so that to me, like, I love to show that people can find love and happiness after divorce as well.
All right. So Codie, the couple that most inspired you and why?
Oh Lord, this one's hard for me because these are my babies. The couples like are meaningful to me.
I know there's one couple you were like
honestly, it was in waves. It was in waves because when me and Tommy were engaged, we started doing these interviews. So we engaged, we're not even married. We're just asking the questions that like we think we want to know about. Then we're married. Then it's like, oh Lord, why does he do this? Then we're pregnant and about to become parents. Then we're pregnant again with twins. Like the way our life changed, I know, informed who meant something to me in that moment. Gotcha. And so I would say there was a pivotal time post twins. I had the twins in November of 2018. And in December, we interviewed Dondre and Sally Whitfield and Kev and Melissa Fredericks. It was like the same day or the same weekend we interviewed them. And the reason that they were impactful to me had a lot to do with Sally at the time had become this popular sought after director, like her career was moving in a different direction. And so the dynamics of 17 years of marriage at that time were inspiring to me. And then Kevin and Melissa Fredericks were talking about being vulnerable, right? Like her sort of forcing him into this vulnerable space. They had been together for 20 years since high school. And she was realizing like, we're not going to make it if you don't start sharing more with me. And these are two things I brought up to Tommy, like, hey, I need you to do more of this, and there are cases where he's just like, no, I'm not changing. I'm not doing that. And then there's times where he hears something and he's like, oh, okay, I can do that. Or I can see how that can erode a relationship. So that's why it's hard for me to have favorites because it depends on what I was going through, yeah.
Do you believe, because I know you said everyone should find whatever makes them happy. Are there some people that should never be married?
Probably. I don't know any of them. I'm not saying any names, but of course there's people, you have to, but it's also about finding that person that is right for you. If you want to be married, but you seem like someone who like, I don't know, maybe you're selfish, maybe you like your space, whatever. If you really want to, you'll find somebody who can respect that.
What about Sierra and Russell Wilson?
Totally obsessed with them. Totally in love with them.
Okay. I want you to do them.
Me too.
Okay.
And I really wanted to ask you, because I think it's a really, really important thing for us as Black people thinking about building wealth. I want to talk to people about how and why you made a decision to keep your IP, that you weren't like, ooh, I want to get bought by Netflix. I want to get bought by OWN. I want to get bought by you own Black Love and you license it to where you want, sort of like what Oprah did. She owned her Oprah show. So please talk to us about that.
So I am happy to, and I will also say, as today, you all called it Wellness Wednesday. Well, at Black Love, it's Wealth Wednesday today. And we actually have a series on our platforms across social, YouTube, the website, with a financial educator, Tonya Rapley, giving some tips today, I think, about savings. So that said, the platform as a whole, right? The Black Love Inc. of it all is about us pouring into our community in all the ways that will make us healthy, happy people. So why was it important for us to own our IP? And it's funny, you mentioned Oprah, but that's part of the reason we were able to, I think. It was important for us because we believed in the idea. We believed that it would have like legs beyond just this series on OWN. And I give Tommy a lot of the credit there, because I probably wouldn't have thought of it. But of course I was completely on board. And so it has allowed us to really be able to get out in our community and have live events and have a website with editorial content every single day, and digital series, and to leverage the show itself on all of those platforms I just mentioned, Hulu and Discovery Plus and the Black Love Plus app, for eternity. And we wouldn't have been able to do that had we given them the show. We would not have. And as a result, we took a much lower license fee than we would have if they owned it. But we bet on ourselves. We had already shot it for 2 years before editing the first episode and a sizzle for the first season. And that's what we went out with. It wasn't a pitch. It wasn't like, hey, we have this idea. It was a whole show, like, look, take it or leave it. And the reason that, part of the reason that it worked is because we had support from OWN. They were like, been there, done that. Oprah is very supportive of such an idea. So it wasn't a hard sell for them. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't hard.
And how did you get to them in the first place?
So at the time, Tommy was repped at CAA. So we had agency representation. We also both had a ton of relationships in the business. We had both been around for a little bit, but we did have an agency. And so we were able to create all of those materials that I just mentioned. And then they said, here, networks, do you want it or not? And there were a few that were interested, and OWN was the most amenable to what we wanted, as well as OWN was my number one choice from the get-go, period, point blank. Yeah.
And I wanted you to say that because I think people, sort of peripherally don't pay attention to the fact that Prince didn't own his music rights. He didn't own his name. Dave Chappelle didn't own his name. That Kevin, I think his name was Kevin Davis, who was Venus and Serena's attorney before he died, was married to a dear friend of mine. And he used to say, everybody wants to get signed. I'm looking for how to get them out of the contract.
Yeah. I'm glad that that's being discussed more and more right now, So yeah, I think it's amazing.
That's the ownership that we need to all have, the ownership of self. And I'm all for it. I own the Karen Hunter Show. And that's why I'm able to do that on YouTube and I take that show with me. The music that you hear open, that's mine. I made it, and all of the other things that go with it, because, money will be there. If you're good, the money will be there. It's like, we all looking for that $1 million paycheck up front. And it's like, but what are you giving up? What are you giving up for that?
And my lawyer said to me, she said, people want those advances, but she says, the interest on your advance is not in the contract. And then when you go to try to get some of the profits, they're like, oh, but you owe this. And that interest wasn't in the contract. So it's like, take less of an advance and take more of the risk, so you get more of the reward on what's coming in.
Yeah. And that's a big part of the conversation too, because people want to talk about ownership, but in that conversation, there has to be understanding of risk. And then there has to be, what are you bringing to the table when you want to own something? Hey, I have an idea. It's 1 sentence long. I want to own it. Well, maybe you should shoot something. Maybe you should, at least write it down. Like maybe you need a little bit more than just, hey, my mom went through this and that I'm just going to own that story. No, like I said, we came to the table with a whole show that we had already shot and edited and packaged with talent. Of course, as you mentioned, Karen, we had celebrities and we had everyday couples. OWN didn't give us any of that. So that's a big part of the conversation.
And it's so well done. It is so well done. What you have created, Codie and Tommy. Codie Elaine Oliver is here. You can follow Black Love at blacklovedoc and blacklove.com. What is, define Black Love and why is it important today? Why is Black Love important?
I think that Black love is truly the love that we give ourselves first as Black people, as we have been told that we are anything but worthy of it for so long, that we have internalized that. And that we get that message over and over again. When we started this show, this whole platform, there was a media portrayal of a Black marriage crisis. Just because you Black, you're not going to be able to get married or stay married. And so Black love is taking back that narrative of not just marriage, but of I, as a Black person, I am worthy of love. I deserve it. And I have a responsibility to share it and give it to my community and the greater population, because that's who we are, even when they tell us that we're not.